Welcome to the Vision Success Digital Marketing Workshops. These are free workshops. They're designed to help you take your vision and realize it in a successful business. So we've got a structure, and so we're going to be very short introductions to who we are and what Vision Success is all about. Then we've got an educational presentation, this time on how to get found in Google. From April, we will be interspersing my bits with guest speakers who will again be doing educational slots on their specialisms. If there is anything you want me to, because I've got a big network, if there's any particular subject you want covered in a bit more detail from a specialist, then please let me know. We've got guests lined up now to the end of May. So that's so that we've got that continual new material. We will be repeating these particular ones probably later on in the year, but I want to try and get as wide a range of educational marketing material in front of you guys as possible, so we can answer all your questions. If you want to ask questions, please use chat, because we'll be asking, if LinkedIn decide to broadcast, then we'll be taking answers from their chat and from YouTube and Facebook. For those who are in the Zoom room, we're going to offer the opportunity to drop your details into chat. So if anybody who wants to network, we can. We'll be opening the floor then around questions around digital marketing, at which point I'd like to run in gallery view with your video on, if possible. We are live streaming, so if you don't want to go on live stream, then please obviously keep your video switched off. And finally, we'll be asking what sort of actions you want to take away from today. Okay, so it's the question often asked about getting to the top of Google. Well, how hard can it be? Well, I mean, there's a huge amount of myths and so forth around in Google. I do hear of horror stories where people have paid a fortune for getting found on LinkedIn. And when you actually look at, we've talked about buyer personas, look at buyer personas, there's no way that those buyers are actually going to search for you, not in a million years, and you've got to go and find them. And we talked last time about the marketing funnel, about whether you've got to be proactive and find your customers, or whether you can be, have the luxury of being reactive and the customers find your particular service. And so I'm going to do a deep dive, show you some of the tools you can use. So if you are paying for someone to do it, you can find out whether they're doing a decent job or not. For those who don't know me, I've been a business digital coach for over 20 years, worked with over 500 businesses. I've worked with technology since they used to take up the size of a house using things called punch cards. And I watched technology develop and grow over the last 40 years. Over 30,000 connections on LinkedIn. And we not only do the coaching and training, but also and strategy development, but we're also an agency. So whatever I'm talking about is the stuff that we're doing. We know that it works because that's what we're doing for clients. So a little bit of housekeeping, running speaker view during the presentation, and then gallery view, which is the top right-hand corner of Zoom. Please use mute when not talking. As there'll be quite a few people in the room, please raise your hand with either physically or with the electronic one. If you raise it with the electronic one, it then moves onto my screen to the top left-hand corner, and I can see which order for people to talk in. And then please feel free to ask questions during chat, and then keep the video on when we're, unless you want to be recorded, when we're actually working workshop mode when I'm not presenting. The purpose of the group is to help you guys compete in the digital world. It is getting more complex. I can't believe how much R&D we have to do in order to stay on top of things. It's here to build on your knowledge, help you solve your digital problems, and hopefully build a community to support your marketing. So Vision to Success is these free Wednesday workshops. We've got the book, Drive Sales with Digital Marketing, just looking at how to get that printed at the moment. It's on my job list, so hopefully in a month or so's time we've then got printed copy, because some people don't quite like the Kindle format. We've got some online digital courses for LinkedIn and social media training, and then we've got various digital marketing strategy and implementation coaching and delivery for you. Nice to see you, William. Thanks for joining. Okay. We've got so this is the book. It's available on Amazon. It's available on about 12 platforms, to be honest. We've spread it around the world. It's 60,000 words. It's a lot of content. But what we find with digital marketing, you do need that sort of that underlying. If you are going to implement it, you do need that basic understanding of how the bits join together. And these series of 10 workshops are based on each of the chapters in the book. So we're now into chapter the fourth chapter, which is the practical application. We do have a WhatsApp group. Eventually that will change to what's called a network group. We've got an exciting piece of new technology to introduce you to during April, and which will help you make your networking work a lot better for you. It's free. There's a lot of money sitting down in that project, and the idea is to get you guys to be able to leverage your networks better. But more about that in about a month's time. Okay, so how to get to the top of Google. So what we're going to take away from today, what is SEO, search engine optimization, why getting found, which is the process of getting found in Google, why getting found is important, techniques you use to get found, and actions you can then take, and some ideas on how to measure the SEO. Okay. So why do we want to be on top of Google? Well, as I said at the beginning, if you're in a market which isn't too saturated, so if you're selling telephones and telephone lines or anything to do with things like that, or anything to do with IT or things like that, it's actually incredibly difficult to get found. But if you've got a niche product or a niche service that, and it's not too competitive, then there's a decent chance, especially in your locality. So if you're say for example you're accountant, if you try to compete at a national level, then yeah, you'd be on page 50. But there's a thing called local SEO, so you can get, so even local accountants and joiners or trades and so forth, with a bit of care, can get found in their locality. If you've ever typed in restaurants near me or petrol stations near me, those are the sorts of results you'll come up on. And the SEO part refers to the unpaid results. Those are a bit further down. So you'll see on Google it's got AD next to things, and then it's the stuff that's found below it. And we've got to remember what Google's objective is here. It's not for you to make money, but it's to give searchers a concise and factually correct answer to a query that can be scanned by the user or read aloud by Google Assistant. Now, one of the things we have to remember, of course, is that Google, we're all starting to get these devices in our homes where we talk to them and ask questions and so forth. You have to realize they can only give one answer. So getting that top slot has become very important for certain companies. Okay. So what makes up SEO? What search engine optimization? Getting found on Google. Well, it's sorting out what the keywords are, what things people are searching you for. It's about writing articles that talk about those particular keywords. Those keywords should be the keywords where people use those keywords to find your services with the intent they're going to buy. We're going to talk about buyers' intent in a little while. And then, unfortunately, you've got to think Google's got billions of sites that it has to index and so forth. And there are ways of structuring the page so that the data within the page becomes part of Google's knowledge base. Google's overall intent is to be the knowledge engine for the world, and I've noticed recently that the searches are getting more accurate. The top two or three are generally exactly what I'm looking for. Okay, just like if everybody could mute their sound, please. And then there's work using what's called Google Search Console, which we'll talk about, which is a free Google tool to tell Google where your information is. It's called a sitemap, and generally it's fairly automatic, but you can force it. In the old days, you used to sort of just submit something into a web page. Now it's through the Search Console. You can tell Google exactly where your information is. You've got link building, which is where in the old days people would send $200 off to India and they would build you lots of links. Now that the florist, who I can't remember the name of, did that, and unfortunately Google then changed all its algorithms so it looked to see whether those links are relevant to the site, into Flora, and they went from a brilliant page one position to disappearing off the map. So you have to stick to the principles that Google, they don't tell you how to do it, but the principles now are pretty much well known. And obviously, doing monthly reporting and so forth, keep analysing the websites and so forth, and keep thinking about what your client wants. You've got to always think from the client's, your customer's point of view. What is it they're really searching for? We're going to look at some of those tools. So why SEO? Well, it's good for brand awareness. We find the majority of searches on a website are actually for the brand. If you've got a unique brand, it will certainly stand out. It gets harder if you've got a more generic name, which is got things in common with common words. Then your brand recognition, brand following becomes a lot harder. We will be having speakers talk about brand, and it is important. And I quite like things that say what it does on the tin. The only problem for that is that then it's very hard to track your brand. So, for example, ours KUB is really easy. Vision to Success is really easy. But if you're called a platform lift company, then you've got a bunch of generic words in there, which does help in the SEO on the site, but it's very hard to track your brand awareness. It's about projecting that expert authority in your sector, even if you don't get, if you like, people searching for what you do. It is important that you have material on your site, content on your site that does demonstrate that you are an expert, whether they're case studies because you're or pictures or before and afters. You've got to say to your customers, we're experts at what we do. And with that approach, that means then you can charge more than those people who just pile it high and sell it cheap. Hopefully it becomes it certainly is a source of support. If you have in that bottom right-hand corner what I think called web chat, which is where people can communicate with you, then you can it's a brilliant place to support people. It's the only thing you own, so you can control it, and you can then use it to generate new inquiries. So we'll take a look at the fundamentals. Oops, I've skipped a slide. So just to remember the search engine's objective. It's about demonstrating your expertise, demonstrating your authority are you the top three of, in the top three of of the experts in what you do in the either geography or area that you're interested in? Is what you've written about, is what's on the site relevant? And when people go on your site, so Google knows, because we've all got analytics, it knows how people behave on your site. It knows that if somebody on a search has clicked on your link to go to the search and then they've come back to it. And that develops trust with both the users of your site and also with Google, which is very important if you want to rank, if you want to get to number one. There is a thing called semantic search, which is about how it takes into the context the whole site. So the site has to make sense. So fundamentals. Okay, just got a few questions here. I'm not sure what SM keywords is. So we've got a question here. Is the context keywords you're referring to exclusive for your website, or does SM keywords get picked up? SM social media. The keywords are exclusively to the website. You need to, when you build your website or develop your website or enhance your website, think about the keywords that people search for, the buyer intent keywords, which we're going to look at in a minute. It doesn't pick keywords up from other areas like social media, if that's what's asked. Very hard to find a book. However, we did like this one. It's slightly technical, but if anybody wanting to deep dive into search engine optimization without getting completely geeky, then this book's been well written. We do like this one. Not many books out there. When we was researching for this part of the book, it was incredibly difficult. Now we've had to do a lot of research online. So a few misconceptions. It's not free. It does take a lot of hard work, and that's why agencies do charge a lot for it. The thing I would say is that there's a lot of things you can do with the free tools. Once you kind of got a basic understanding of WordPress, we're talking about a little tool you can use. It's not hard. It's stuff you can do, but it is a commitment. And it's not, people think, oh, it's quick result. Nope, it's 6 to 18 months now to have an effect. Long time ago, quite a few years ago, you could get up to page one with a particular phrase if you worked hard at it. But now it's working. It's if people say, hey, I'll get to the top of page one, it's false promises, because you're going to get bored by the time they've achieved that, especially in very competitive areas. If you're not in a competitive area, then you still can do well quite quickly. People see Google keeps changing. Well, Google came out, I think, 2004, something like that. The actual principles have never changed. The tactics, and therefore the gaming that people do, can be. And then it's sometimes difficult for people to understand that it can actually be quite challenging to get a site to rank, either because they've not got the right images, they're not the right articles, and so forth. It does take time and commitment, but it is something you can do for certain industries. Okay, so what it can do, it can be sustainable. We've got sites that have been running for many years now, 5-10 years, and because there's constant demand in the marketplace, and because they've been around for a long time, and because they put the work in at the start, it is sustainable. How do you quickly do relevant changes? Keywords change. Okay, that's an interesting question. So the keywords are your buyers. So if your buyers are constantly changing, then your keywords are constantly changing. But we work with a pipe freezing company, and their keywords haven't changed for probably longer, 15 years, because people in the industry know what they're looking for, and then they type that in. So it will very much depend on the products and services. Your products and services change because your clients demand different things, then yes, your keywords will change. So William, I know you sell wine online, so you'll be fine. You'll come out have a new case of a particular wine. You probably need to be able to rank for all the generic ones, Sauvignons and clarets and so forth, and then drive them to whatever wine choice you have of the day. I'd have a generic section talking about those particular ones for each of the particular wines you cover, and then you can then put in the particular make. It might be yellow, one of the makes. Is it yellowtail and things like that? I won't mind, but I've got a rack of wine downstairs with them all in. But and if you can beat your competition, we'll show you tools on how to do that. And if you can work on longer search terms, you can then be found in your niche. Sarah's got to leave, but this will all be recorded, and we'll eventually have the transcripts and so forth online, and there'll be the YouTube and Facebook videos. Julie's out on the LinkedIn one at the moment. Okay, so a few important things. It's going to be secure and accessible. So we'll be talking about this in a couple of weeks, a couple of weeks' time, talking about websites. We're going to make sure you've got that little padlock on the top left. We're going to make sure that it's fast both on desktop and mobile. It has to be mobile friendly. 50% of your traffic will be coming from mobile on average. If you've got an old domain, that's brilliant. I have come across companies that go, "Oh, we're going to rebrand and we're going to change our domain." Oh, okay. That's not great. There are things you can do to mitigate it, but losing that domain age is not great. And we're going to talk about optimizing the content. This thing called technical SEO, which is about getting rid of the errors and so forth. This is developer country. You can do this, but this is probably developer country. Making sure that the user experience is great. So when you go on the site, they can get to whatever they want. It is important, the customer journey. People aren't mind readers. You've got to tell them where you want to go. Again, this is a bit more harder work, creating backlinks. We're doing a backlink campaign for somebody at the moment. It's very slow and time consuming. And generally, if you can put stuff on social media like LinkedIn and so forth, you get what's called link bait, where people go, "Oh, wow, yeah, I think I'll link back to that. It's a useful article," and so forth. Your social media, how well are articles liked, and does it contain real business information or real information that's useful to people? So we've got to look at a long tail keyword. Now these are 3 or 4 keyword phrases which are very specific to you. We're going to look at some examples here. So if I was looking for a bookkeeper and based in Preston, I'd probably type in part-time. We use 0, so we want to use 0. Bookkeeping, that's the service we're interested in, and where, Preston. And again, WordPress developer. These are all very specific. People are, someone's looking for a divorce solicitor and they're looking in the locality. And there's no reason why any of these companies can't be found locally. Maybe not nationally, but certainly locally. And then, one of the exercises you can do from today is how can you get found? So this is the long tail keyword. So if you type in bookkeeper, if you go and repeat this, the numbers will all be different. But if you type in bookkeeper, there's 22 million. But if we get down to a zero freelance bookkeeper part-time in Blackburn, there's 22,000 come up. But what you'll find is actually the top 10 are really useful links. So sometimes long tail keywords can be called money keywords or buyer's intent, is because their people are When they're down this end with longer phrases, they've typed in quite a bit. They're very specific at what they want. If you remember from the marketing funnel, people at the top of the marketing funnel would just be typing these sorts of words in. And when they get to the bottom, they really nailed what it is they're looking for. And they're looking to, and these words, it's a lot easier to compete on, especially if you're local. So we come to Neil Patel's Uber Suggest. There is a limited free version. He does charge something for it. But it's the only tool we can currently recommend. There's Moz and SEMrush, which are fantastic tools, but also most of you would not be prepared to pay $100 or more for them because you'd never get the use out of them because they are quite intense. Whereas with Uber Suggest, even with the free version, you can jump in and out and do some meaningful work. The reason I put this in here is we did really well with a thing called Calico. It's a legal solutions group of companies all collaborating together. And the SRA we're about to change a lot of rules. So we wrote some quite long articles on what those rules changes were, and we got to top of the page with those, even though we were competing with the SRA themselves. And we used the Uber Suggest tool. So if you go to Uber Suggest, the interface keeps changing, but if you type in your domain into the keywords, you'll see that there's, we typed in cub, and these are all the keywords that came out that we're currently ranking for. And we could then look at these and go, well, I'm only ranking number 5. How can I improve on that? So it gives you lots of ideas on what you can be doing. And it will give you, if you connect it up to your Google Analytics, which is a free tool from Google, and if you type in Google Space Analytics into Google, it will come up, and hopefully your developer will have given you access. You also use it to research competitors. So now this is not so you copy off competitors as such, but it will give you ideas of the sort of keywords they're ranking for. You'll tell whether they're doing any good or not if they're ranking for all the things you think you would expect to be found by. If it's a bit of a sort of mishmash, then you know that they're not doing anything. So which means that with a bit of effort, you could actually outcompete them. One of the big things we find with websites is that they can have an incredible number of errors in them. Now, these errors aren't things you can see, but there are errors that Google can see because things aren't connected up correctly, the right information is on the page correctly, and so forth. And this is where you can collaborate with your web developer and say, look, we need to start fixing some of these things. And it does rank them. So you've got critical errors, which is what we generally focus on. Then you've got warnings and then recommendations. Another tool that you can use, make sure when you use GTmetrix, it's free, but make sure you create an account, because basically you want to be doing the search from London. If you just do the free tool and not register, it'll be from, I think it's Calgary in Canada. And which means your traffic is being tested across the Atlantic, which isn't great. So pick a local company. If you get A, B, or C, C is still decent. And the thing is that this screen keeps changing, but it's getting easier and easier to find the errors. And a lot of it's down to image size. People don't, when they load up the images onto a website, they load up several megabyte files, and which isn't good enough. You need to load up files that have been crunched down if you can. There's various things like tiny PNG and so forth that help you do that. And then Google Analytics, we mentioned this before. If you go to google.co.uk/analytics, hopefully your website developer has set that up for you. And if you ask them, they'll then give you a link through to it, and then you can look at it yourself. It is important you do this stuff. It's a bit like profit and loss for your, you've got profit and loss for your financial accounts. Well, Google Analytics, this particular screen shows you how well your site's doing. So this is a previous year, this is this year, and we've obviously improved our performance. This is quite a high bounce rate, by the way, but we have a lot of articles on where people go in and then go back out again. We're planning to add a lot of video to the site, so that will keep people on the site a lot longer. This is another powerful tool which some developers don't set up, but it does take techie to set it up, unfortunately, because you have to change, add a record, piece of information to the domain itself. It's a 5-minute job. It's not a time-consuming job, but it unfortunately does involve messing about with some technical records, which probably ideally you shouldn't be messing about with. So best to sort of Google set it up so you say, hey, send this to the developer, and the developer knows what to do, and it's literally a 5-minute job for them. So if anybody takes a sharp intake of breath, you know that we're taking the mic. Okay, so this is what's an impression? Okay, good question. So an impression is when you type something into Google, it comes up with the answers below where you type that question in. That's an impression. When that sort of line of text is shown to you, that link through to your website in the search engine results, that's an impression. When you click on it, that's a click. And hope that answers it. Cheers, William. So bringing it together, make sure you have full access to your website, including plugins. If you cannot see the word plugins on the left-hand side, you do not have what's called admin access. So make sure you have that. It does make me kind of a bit angry when web developers don't give admin access to customers. Now, that's not to say you always access the website as an administrator. You could have 2 users, one for when you want to just check if everything's all there, and another for when you're doing day-to-day edits and so forth. But somebody in your company needs to be able to have admin access. In my view, it's not a shared view by some developers. You should have, again, in my view, full access to your Google Analytics. So Search Console, they are free to use, and they're relatively easy to set up. Once a developer, it's a max 10-minute job for them to do that. You can test the speed of your website. You can have a play around with Ubersuggest to make sure that is your website being found? Has it been found for the keywords you want? Has it got errors in it, and so forth? And then, if appropriate, start writing long articles around those keywords, and create a dashboard for capturing those key things like number of sessions, number about the bounce rate. That's where when the traffic goes in and it comes straight back out again, that's a bounce. If it then go on to read other articles, that's good, and that's the ideally what you want. So let's go around the room now, and if you're now working gallery, then we'll stop this share. Please remember we are live. So if Jane, I think you're going to take away from today, from these actions from the workshop.
Yeah, we touched on it in previous sessions that we'd actually engage with some SEO optimization. So this basically just tells me I've wasted a load of money, and that a lot of the things that they were actually offering for a fee are free. One of the things they were actually offering us Google Analytics at 1,500 quid a month.
Wow.
So Peter, you're worth your weight in gold here.
Yeah, yes, I find it frustrating when I hear stories like that. But anyway, hopefully a lot more people know.
There's that element to it. There's also the I think that Uber suggest, especially the suggestion that we can put our competitors' domain name in there, is excellent. That's exactly what all businesses want to do, aren't you? I mean, at the end of the day, we can look at whatever domain's coming up most frequently and compare ourselves. And so I think that's a very, very good suggestion. And also, it was actually something that I asked the question just before we started today's session: do we have admin access? Which the answer to that is no. So equally, like, very, very, very helpful information, which we can navigate conversations with our domain hosts and the website developers, and probably, if nothing else, get better value for money from them.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely excellent content there, Peter. Thank you.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. Lucinda, anything you want to take away?
Yeah, absolutely. It's all really, really useful information, all the being able to sort of track and go behind the scenes with everything. So that was great to know where to go to find that info. For me, it's about starting to write more articles around the keywords and starting to add those onto the website and get that, because it's been a bit dormant for a while, my website, since it got launched last year. And I think it just needs some more content being put on there to keep it refreshed and keep it relevant. So that's been a good reminder of what to do.
Yeah, so if you're adding new content, do it as a drip.
Yeah.
Do it sort of, one a month, one a week, whatever. But don't pile it all up and go out and do it as one job. Google hates that. It likes to see the site organically grow.
Yeah. What would be the recommended? Is it about 400 words for kind of an article? Is that 400 to 500 words or? Yeah,
it depends what you're trying to achieve. You're trying to achieve sort of really getting found, then you need to write, some of the articles need to be about 2,500.
Oh, crikey.
Really sort of in-depth. They call them pillar, skyscraper, there's a range of article names for them. Really go to town on some quite long ones. So rather than writing sort of 4 medium, sort of 400-word ones, write, maybe spend a couple of months writing a long one. It's the long ones that will get you found now. The short ones are useful because what you can then do is have a long one and then write sub-articles based on that, and then always point them back to the big article. Okay. Well, that says to Google, hey, this is the main article. This is really important, and because sometimes you want to write 400. I'd write sort of 500 to 600 rather than 400.
Okay.
Just that bit more longer. But then, but at once a quarter, write a really long one. You only need probably about 4, depending on how big your subject area is.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you.
Cheers, thanks. William, you've raised your hand. You're on mute now.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, that's all good.
Thanks, that's really, really useful. My question is how much work do you need to put into the 3 section of descriptors, H1 and permalinks? I know that you actually have to put keywords into these areas, but I'm finding that the descriptions I come up with are pretty much the same for each wine. So I'd like to get a little bit of variety in that. Is it important to have the keywords mainly in the permalinks and the H1 and maybe less in the descriptors, or is it all important?
It's all important. So your title, ideally, but if it doesn't make sense in English, because first of all, it has to make sense in English. Gone are the days where we did what's called keyword stuffing.
Yeah.
But ideally, the keywords need to be at the start of the title. But it's not, if it doesn't make any sense in English, then it's important that you, it makes sense in English first, then the keyword. So the keyword's got to go towards the end, that's fine. Yes, it does need to be in what's called permalink or the slug. This is this is the word. So you've got your domain, you might have products, and then you might have, and then so yellowtail
Yeah.
Sauvignon or whatever. I don't know whether they do that, but you know what I mean. So yellow, and it's a dash. No, do not use underscores. It's a dash, yellow dash, tail dash Sauvignon. Yeah.
Yeah.
If the products are all, because you've got a website with products on, yes, it is tricky. Do try to make the descriptions different. We use a tool called Jarvis, which makes life a lot easier for us when we're doing a big e-commerce site, because we have to do all the descriptions, and then Jarvis writes it different every time. But that's about $76 a month. So there is a cost to that, so it's not a cheap solution. Do you want to, which actions, whilst we're on with you, which actions you're going to take away then?
Well, I'm going to look at Uber Suggest. You say that's it's partly free.
Yeah, there's a free version which is usable. Yeah.
I'm certainly going to have a look at them, and I'm also going to think about using keywords in a blog on the website as well. I noticed that you. I noticed that obviously the blog can't be too long. I mean, is there an ideal number of words in a blog?
Well, for you, because you've got so many products which you need to go through and optimize. But actually, I would have a how-to section or a wine for dummies section, or whatever you sort of need, and then you can write about each particular grape or type of wine and so forth. Yeah. And then you can put links back to the actual products, and those need to be ideally 2,000 to 2,500 if they can be. Really in-depth articles on how to do wine tasting and things.
Excellent.
Yeah. Rick, anything you're going to take away?
There we are. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Pretty much what Jane said. We don't have the plugins for our website. They've never mentioned that, have they, Jane, to us? So, and we're going to look at the Uber Suggest. Yeah. And you said that finds your website obviously on the listing, but does that find your keywords as well? I think it does, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. You look at your competitors, look at yours, so you put your keywords in. Yeah.
So we can check what our competitors are using as keywords.
Correct. Yeah.
Because I think we chose about 50 or 60.
Okay.
When we did our sort of campaign, but we only run it for 3 months.
Yeah.
And at 1,500 quid a month, we weren't getting much business from it. We decided to sort of pause that. But you said it takes like 12 to 18 months.
Yeah, unfortunately, these days. Yeah. It does take a while, and that's why it can be frustrating as a business. But, I mean, there are a few tricks you can do. It depends on your industry as well.
We ran some ads, and they seemed to work as we ran an ad for one word and then for another, and they did. I could see them working, but not for 1,500 quid a month.
No,
it just seemed a lot of.
There's probably stuff you could do that would sort of do a lot of break the back of the work.
Yeah.
Okay. Roger, what are you going to take away from today?
Yeah, hi Pete. To be honest, I was really impressed with the suggestions that you came up with, because everything, I know nothing about this subject area, and I found it all really, really useful. And it's perfect timing, because we've just been allocated a student to work with us for a couple of months from Liverpool Uni, we've got two actually. One's IT and one's social media. So the information that you've given us, I'm going to feed into them and get them to action. So I've really appreciated today's session, Pete. Thanks very much.
Yeah, no worries. Well, as I say, the recording will be on the website by Friday, I think, so that the students can then go back in and do that, and the presentation will be downloadable.
And I would share with yourself and the other people who are online with us now that all our local universities are keen to try and get some short-term placement experience with local businesses like ours, so that it goes on their CV.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that it's going to cut out people and services like your own, Peter, because these students they're just learning the ropes. They're a million miles off where you are.
Yeah, absolutely.
But they can really help us small businesses in a small way, where we haven't got 1,500 quid a month like some of the other people online have been paying. But it's going to help us do our job more effectively, and then hopefully at some point in the future we will be able to afford the 1,500 quid a month for these services. But I would share that with everybody who's on now.
Yeah, I'm a great fan of if people say, right, we want to bring somebody on board to do some of the work, the legwork, because a lot of the stuff doesn't need to go to an agency. This is why we as an agency, we do this stuff, because product clients will have a lot more success if they can do some of the low level stuff and not have to shell out. So we as a business just provide that expertise to do the stuff that really it's difficult to learn. Updating the domain's records to add, because Search Console is a job for us, but once it's set up, it's a job for you, for like students and so forth. Thank you very much. Giles, what are you going to take away from today?
Well, I've been working with you for quite some time, so I do a GT Matrix every week. I've just had a load of new photos done and uploaded to my website, and my performance has increased yet again, which is great. But it's I need to start writing longer articles. I think the sort of like 200-300 words that I've been writing recently just aren't enough.
Yeah, you need to pick a keyword, like your Giles, everybody doesn't know him, bakes some fantastic sort of candlesticks, and how was he describe some of the things? Well, you can see it in the background there. So
functional works of art which are usable.
Functional works of art, brilliant. And they're really nice, they're lovely, the stuff he's been doing. So you could do a story of how like you would a recipe in a book. If what you're doing at one stage, take a photo of it, next stage photo, and so forth, and build a story that way. People love to see how things are made, and I know you and I did a live stream with video, but you could record that yourself, or you could just write a story just with pictures. The story with pictures would work well. We've got a few folk with cameras off and mute. Does any of you want to ask any questions?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for your presentation. I was so late. Actually, I was waiting on LinkedIn for the video to start.
Yeah, it didn't start, did it? I don't think.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm from different area. I have a small business which is in another language than English.
Yeah.
Does that count in ranking my website on Google, or I need to use English keywords?
Okay, so are you able to tell me which language it's in?
It's French and Arabic.
Okay, and is it hosted in France? Or?
Yes.
Okay, so obviously in France, it will be in the French version of Google, google.fr.
Yes.
And you should be able to get using all the approaches I've given you should work for your French site in France. So if somebody types something, your product name in French in France, then your website, if it's optimized correctly, should come up. If you then want it to come up in English, you've got a couple of options. One is to make your site a multi-site, which is a technical piece of work, unfortunately, but there are tools out there that allow it to be multilingual. But if you've got Arabic on your site as well? Or,
Yes.
All right, so you can have an English version of your site. Because it's in France, has it got a .fr extension or is it .com?
Yes, it's .fr.
Yeah, so it won't particularly appear on the global stage. If you wanted to be international, you'd probably need the .com version of your site.
Mhm.
Actually have as a separate site if you were going to internationalize it. If you wanted it to be multilingual and happy with the .fr, but having the different languages, then it's just a question of, using the multi-site tool you must already have, so that you can have it in French or Arabic or English. I certainly would have an English version if you are an international company.
Okay. And what about the keywords in Arabic? Does that rank correctly on a region that they speak Arabic, or I need to have keywords in English or in different language?
Well, you can optimize the .fr because a lot of French people do speak Arabic, don't they?
Yeah.
So I would, in the first instance, so you're saving some money, is optimize the site, the Arabic version of the site in Arabic first, and see where the visitors come from.
Thank you.
If you are, it's probably not quite the right forum to get into depth into terms of internationalization. It is of quite a specialist area, but I think there are things you could do. Make sure it's found in the on the French Google for both French terms and the Arabic terms, and then use the tools that you've got to develop
Okay.
getting found. We use Uber Suggest because it recognizes different countries.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Has anybody else got any comments and thoughts? Ask any questions? No? Well, not quite sure what happened to the LinkedIn Live. Rachel, did we go live on YouTube and Facebook?
Yeah, it did go live on LinkedIn, but it went live onto the company page as opposed to onto the LinkedIn event. So I'm not sure why, but it's something to look into.
Okay, a little bit of homework for us. It's always the trouble when you're pushing the boundaries, but years time, everybody will be doing it. So as an agency, we felt we needed to be doing it ahead of the curve.
Peter, what do you mean by a multi-site? Is that a multi-language site?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're talking to an international consultancy at the moment. It's just we built they've got a .com name. It's in English at the moment. She launches in US, so she actually wants a US language site because the US do like to see it done in their way, not in the UK English way. And then we've got Spanish, and I think we've got Hindu after that.
Right.
So,
okay. Thanks.
Yeah, it's just another tool. Basically, whichever way they're coming from, the site recognizes what language they're in and provides the appropriate pages.
So, say for example, someone in Jordan looks at our site, which is based in the UK. Will it be in English, or can they translate it on their side? Anyway?
You've got obviously the free Google Translate. So if they've got that switched on, it'll translate your site anyway.
Right.
So if you've not got that many customers and you've got working with people all around the world, then they would know how to read your site in their language just using the free Google Translate.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Okay, guys, it's great to see you all again. We've got the WhatsApp group running. We have got some great tools that we're going to be presenting to you in April, which will allow you to do some of the marketing strategy and stuff yourself that we've been talking through. And then we'll be having guest speakers. If there's any guest speakers that any subjects you're interested in, then I'll get in touch with my network and hunt down some good people. So that we can get some look at different areas and so forth. If there are any problems or challenges that you want to bring to the table, please let me know and we'll build those into the agenda. Okay, so thanks very much and hopefully see you all next week.